Hey everyone! Today we're diving into something truly fascinating, a hidden clue in medical scans. It's a simple, broken circle that can literally change everything for a patient. It's called the incomplete ring sign, and it is just a perfect example of how doctors use visual patterns to solve some of the toughest medical mysteries out there.
Okay, let's just jump right into a scenario that is, pretty much anyone's worst nightmare. You get an MRI and the doctor comes in with that serious look and says, "We found something." Instantly, your mind just starts racing. What on earth could it be?
And right away, your mind just floods with these scary possibilities. Is it a brain tumor? Could it be some kind of serious infection, maybe an abscess? The not knowing part is just overwhelming, and doctors, they need solid clues to figure out what to do next.
But here's the thing. What if the answer wasn't just that there's a spot, but in the specific shape of that spot? Sometimes one tiny visual detail can cut right through all that fear and all that uncertainty and point everyone in a much, much clearer direction.
And that brings us to the hero of our story today. This is the specific sign that can change the entire game, the incomplete ring sign.
So what is it exactly? Well, when you get an MRI with a special contrast dye, certain parts of your body can light up or enhance. Now, if that bright spot forms a perfect closed circle, that points to one set of problems. But if it forms a C shape or kind of like a horseshoe, a ring that's clearly open on one side, that is the incomplete ring sign.
And this is where it gets absolutely wild. The difference this one tiny detail makes is just striking. A complete, closed ring, that often suggests some of the scariest things, like a tumor or a bad infection. But an incomplete open ring, that points strongly towards something called a demyelinating condition, like multiple sclerosis. We're talking two totally different shapes leading to two vastly different diagnoses and completely different paths forward.
Okay, so you gotta ask, why? Why does this C shape form in the first place? What is actually happening inside the brain to create this very specific, open pattern? Because it's not random, it's the body telling a story.
It really all comes down to how a disease like MS actually works. Demyelination is basically damage to the protective coating around your nerve fibers, and it usually kicks off in the brain's white matter. From there, it kind of spreads outward, almost like a wave. That enhancement we see on the scan, that's the front line of the wave. And here's the key. The open side of that C is always facing the outer part of the brain, the cortex. That little detail tells doctors exactly what kind of process they're looking at.
And look, this isn't just some vague hint for doctors. The presence of this sign gives them an incredibly high degree of certainty. The actual statistics behind it are, well, they're pretty mind-blowing.
Think about this. When a radiologist sees that C shape on an MRI, a diagnosis of demyelination becomes over 5 times more likely than a tumor, just from the shape alone.
Anyway, it gets even more definitive. That exact same incomplete ring makes demyelination a staggering 17 times more likely than an infection. This one visual clue can practically, almost single-handedly, rule out some of the absolute worst-case scenarios.
So let's bring it back to what really matters, what this means for the person waiting for those answers. Seeing this C shape can be that first ray of light. It can mean the difference between hearing, "We need to talk about surgery and chemotherapy," versus hearing, "We have a plan to manage this. It's a chronic condition, but it is treatable."
But here's something that might surprise you. This whole idea of looking for a break in the circle isn't just a brain scan thing. It's actually a really fundamental concept that pops up all over medicine.
So, you're probably wondering, is this just a neat trick that neurologists use? Or is this idea of an incomplete ring a more universal pattern that doctors are trained to look for in other places?
And yeah, it absolutely applies elsewhere. In spinal CT scans, for instance, a break or disruption in the bony ring of a vertebra is a dead giveaway for a type of fracture. And way back when, in older abdominal scans, the contrast dye pooling in a stomach ulcer would often form a similar incomplete ring. The body part changes, the technology changes, but the basic idea stays the same. A break in an expected circle means something's wrong.
So even though that brain MRI sign is the one we talk about most today, this history shows us that pattern recognition, and specifically looking for breaks in expected shapes, has been a cornerstone of medical imaging for a long, long time. It's a tried and true method for finding the source of the problem.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. We've looked at the science, the pretty crazy stats, and the history. What's the big takeaway from all this? What does this humble little incomplete ring really teach us?
Well, for one, it shows us that a really simple visual pattern can unlock a super complex biological truth. It proves just how powerful visual evidence can be, turning a confusing image into a clear answer. And for a patient, a single clue like this can bring clarity and even hope in a really scary moment. And I think ultimately, it just highlights that one of the most vital skills in medicine isn't just memorizing facts, but being able to recognize the patterns that are telling the real story.
And that kind of leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. The incomplete ring is just one example. It really makes you wonder, right? What other simple, elegant patterns are out there just hiding in plain sight in our scans and in our own biology, waiting to give us the answers to the next big medical questions?